All right, so today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something kind of unexpected.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about sugar.
Sugar.
Uh-huh. But not like just regular sugar talk.
Not just like how much is too much.
No, not like that. It's more about like this idea that giving up sugar could actually like help you grow spiritually.
Whoa.
Yeah, right?
Mm.
It sounds kind of crazy,
Yeah.
but that's what we're going to be exploring today.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So we're basing this deep dive on this book called The 40-Day Sugar Fast by Wendy Speake.
Oh, okay.
And it's not like your typical diet book.
I've seen those.
Yeah, this one's different. It's more about like this idea that maybe ditching the donuts could actually like bring you closer to God or whatever you consider your higher power.
Interesting. So it's like a spiritual thing.
Yeah, it gets pretty deep.
Okay, well, I'm ready to dive in.
So one of the things that Speake talks about is like how sugar is more than just a sweet treat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she actually compares it to like addictive substances.
Like drugs?
Yeah, kind of like she's saying that it can mess with our brain's reward system in a way that's like similar to what happens with drugs.
That's interesting.
And there's even some research she cites that shows how sugar consumption like lights up the same pleasure centers in our brains as cocaine.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So we're not just talking about like a little sweet tooth here. We're talking about like a potential addiction.
Okay, so she's saying that sugar is like seriously powerful stuff.
Yeah, and that it could be like blocking us from having a true spiritual connection.
Okay, now that's a new one.
Right. Like, have you ever thought about it that way?
I mean, I've definitely felt that sugar crash before. Like, when you eat a bunch of candy and then you just feel terrible.
Ugh. Yeah.
But I never really thought about it as like a spiritual thing.
Well, that's what Speak is getting at. She calls it a double detox.
Okay.
So the idea is that by giving up sugar for 40 days, you're not only like cleansing your body, you're also like making space for spiritual growth.
So it's like a cleanse for both body and soul.
Exactly. I like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool concept. So it's like instead of reaching for that cookie when you're feeling down, you reach for something a little more spiritual.
Yeah, basically. But what would that even look like?
Well, that's where the idea of spiritual substitution comes in.
Okay.
So instead of relying on that sugar rush to lift us up, Speake says we can lean on our faith, prayer meditation, or like whatever spiritual practice works for us.
So like instead of grabbing a candy bar, I could like meditate for a few minutes.
Exactly. It's about intentionally replacing that physical craving with a spiritual connection.
I see. So like trading in those empty calories for something a little more nourishing for the soul.
Yeah, and Speake even gives some specific examples like, starting each day with a prayer of gratitude or replacing that afternoon cookie break with a few minutes of mindful meditation.
That actually sounds kind of nice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's about finding those little ways to weave spirituality into your daily routine.
And it's not about like being perfect or anything. It's just about like making that effort to connect with something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, and she has this one line in the book that I think really sums it up. She says, "Sugar can fill the stomach, but only God can fill the soul."
Whoa, that's
Well,
powerful.
right.
Like it's so simple, but it really gets to the heart of what she's talking about.
Exactly. Like sometimes what we think is a physical craving is actually like a spiritual hunger.
It's like we're reaching for a bag of chips when what we really need is like a hug from God or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's be real for a second. Giving up sugar for 40 days, that's not easy.
Oh,
Like I can barely make it through a day without chocolate.
Right.
So does Speak like give you any tips or tricks to make it actually doable?
Oh, yeah, totally. She doesn't just like throw you to the wolves and expect you to figure it out on your own.
Okay, good.
The book is loaded with practical tools like meal plans packed with delicious sugar-free recipes.
Sugar-free recipes. I feel like those are always kind of bland.
No, these are actually good. Like, think zucchini noodles with avocado pesto or spiced roasted chickpeas.
Okay, that actually sounds pretty tasty.
Yeah, right. And it's not just about like salads and deprivation. It's about finding creative ways to nourish your body without relying on those sugary crutches.
So it's like healthy but not boring.
Exactly. It's about like enjoying food
Yeah.
and still taking care of yourself.
Okay, well, I'm definitely intrigued by the recipes, but what about the rest of it? Like, I remember reading something about journaling prompts in the book, too.
Oh, yeah. Those are a big part of Speake's approach.
What are they all about?
Well, they're designed to help you like explore the emotional and spiritual side of this journey.
Okay.
There's one that really stood out to me. It asks, what void are you trying to fill with sugar?
Whoa, that is deep.
Right.
Like, it's making you really think about, like, why you're reaching for those sweets in the first place.
Exactly. It's like she's encouraging us to use this time for introspection, for like digging a little deeper and figuring out what's really going on beneath the surface.
So it's like a self-discovery journey disguised as a sugar fast.
Yeah, kinda. And that's where the real transformation happens. Speake argues that lasting change requires more than just willpower. It requires a deeper understanding of ourselves and our motivations.
So it's about getting to the root of the problem, not just treating the symptoms.
Exactly. It's about addressing those deeper needs that might be driving our sugar cravings and finding healthier, more fulfilling ways to meet them.
Okay, so this sugar fast is as much about exploring our inner world as it is about what we're putting into our bodies.
Yeah, it's like we're using food as a starting point for a much deeper journey of self-discovery.
I like that, but hold on a second. What about like the whole historical and religious connection to fasting?
Oh,
I
yeah?
remember reading something about that too.
That's actually a really fascinating aspect of the book.
So like what does giving up sugar have to do with all that?
Well, Speak doesn't present this sugar fast in isolation. Like, she connects it to ancient traditions of fasting that have been practiced for centuries across various cultures and religions.
So she's saying this is nothing new.
Yeah, exactly. Like, historically, fasting was seen as a way to demonstrate devotion, to cleanse the body and soul, and to draw closer to the divine.
Hmm. So it's like tapping into the wisdom of our ancestors and applying it to our modern lives.
Exactly.
Okay. But how does giving up sugar specifically tie into all of that?
Well, Speak draws a parallel between abstaining from something physical, like food, and strengthening our spiritual connection.
I see.
She suggests that by denying ourselves that immediate gratification, we can cultivate discipline, increase our self-awareness, and create space for a deeper spiritual experience.
So it's not just about cutting out sweets, it's about tapping into something much larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that sometimes the things that seem hard or uncomfortable can actually lead us to the most profound growth.
Okay, I gotta admit, I'm starting to see sugar in a whole new light.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's amazing how something so seemingly simple can have such a profound impact on our lives.
But let's be honest, most people probably pick a book about sugar fasting, hoping to shed a few pounds.
Oh, for sure.
Is that part of this journey too?
Of course, weight loss is often a natural byproduct of cutting out sugar.
Right.
But what Speak emphasizes is that the potential benefits go far beyond just fitting into your skinny jeans.
Okay, like what?
She talks about things like stable energy levels, improved emotional well-being, and a deeper connection to your spirituality.
So it's a holistic approach, addressing both the physical and the spiritual aspects of our being.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that Speak suggests this increased self-control and awareness we gain from the sugar fast can spill over into other areas of our lives.
Really?
Yeah, it's like we're building up our discipline muscles,
Yeah.
which can then be applied to anything from managing stress to sticking to our goals.
Oh, wow, so it's like a ripple effect.
Exactly. Like if we can conquer our sugar cravings, maybe we can conquer other challenges in our lives too.
That's a really empowering thought.
It is. And it speaks to the transformative potential of this 40-day journey. It's not just about what we're giving up, it's about who we're becoming in the process.
Yeah. This is some seriously thought-provoking stuff. It seems like this 40-day sugar fast is about way more than just deprivation. It's about...
Substitution.
Exactly. It's about replacing a potentially harmful habit with something that can truly nourish us both physically and spiritually.
And what's particularly insightful is how Speak frames this substitution. She doesn't simply advocate for replacing sugar with healthier foods. She encourages replacing the desire for sugar with a reliance on faith prayer or whatever form of spiritual connection resonates with you.
That's where the real magic happens, right? When we shift our focus from that quick sure tricks to a deeper, more lasting sense of fulfillment.
Precisely. By addressing the underlying spiritual needs that might be driving those sugar cravings,
Yeah.
we create space for genuine and lasting change.
Okay, but if this fast is about replacing a physical craving with a spiritual connection, it raises an important question. What role does discipline play in all of this?
Oh, that's a great question.
Like, is it all about white-knuckling it through those sugar cravings, or is there something more to it?
That's a great question, and one that Speake addresses directly. She argues that discipline is an integral part of this journey, but it's not about punishing ourselves. It's about using discipline as a tool for growth, for strengthening our spiritual muscles, if you will.
So it's not about being good or bad. It's about using discipline as a way to cultivate a deeper connection with ourselves and whatever we consider our higher power.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that sometimes saying no to something that feels good in the moment can actually open us up to something far more meaningful and lasting.
This is making me think about all the things we give up for Lent. Is that kind of the same idea here? a temporary sacrifice for a greater purpose.
That's a great parallel. In many spiritual traditions, fasting is seen as a way to cleanse the body and the soul to create space for reflection and renewal. And while the specific practices might vary, the underlying principle is the same. By temporarily abstaining from something, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to something greater than ourselves.
It's like hitting the pause button on our everyday routines and stepping back to gain a fresh perspective.
That's a great way to put it. And you know what's particularly fascinating is how this concept of giving things up can be applied beyond just sugar and spirituality.
Now you're speaking my language. I was just thinking about that. Could we use this same principle to break free from other dependencies or habits that are holding us back in different areas of our lives?
Absolutely. Speak might focus on sugar and spiritual transformation, but the underlying principles have the potential to be applied much more broadly.
So it's not just about ditching donuts and finding God. It's about recognizing that sometimes letting go of something that seems essential can actually be the key to unlocking our true potential in any area of our lives.
It's about recognizing that true freedom often comes from understanding and addressing the deeper needs that drive our behaviors, whether it's a craving for sugar, a dependence on social media, or any other habit that might be holding us back from living our most fulfilling lives.
It's like that saying, sometimes you have to let go of the shore to discover new oceans.
Exactly. By challenging our assumptions about what we need and embracing the idea of mindful substitution, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities.
I don't know about you, but this deep dive has definitely sparked a lot of thoughts for me.
Me too. It's amazing how something as seemingly simple as giving up sugar can lead to such profound insights about our own lives and the choices we make.
And the beauty of it is that it's not about following a strict set of rules. It's about using these ideas as a springboard for self-discovery and personal growth.
It's about empowering ourselves to make conscious choices that align with our values and aspirations, whatever those may be.
And that's what makes this whole concept so powerful. It's not about fitting into someone else's mold. It's about creating a path that's authentic to you.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we all have the power to choose what we consume, both physically and spiritually, and to create a life that nourishes us on every level.
Now that's something to chew on.
It's like our modern world is like a giant candy store, you know?
Oh, totally. Like
Yes.
everywhere you turn, there's something tempting you.
Yeah, exactly. Like flashy ads, sugary treats, endless notifications. It's like we're constantly bombarded with things that are designed to give us that quick hit of pleasure.
Acts like we're hardwired for instant gratification these days.
Exactly. And I think that's part of what makes this sugar fast so challenging. It's like we're going against our natural instincts.
Yeah, it's like we're so used to getting what we want when we want it that we've forgotten the power of saying no.
And the power of delayed gratification.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
If
Like
we're-
maybe we've gotten so caught up in the instant that we're missing out on something bigger, something more meaningful.
Right. And that's where the spiritual piece comes in. Like Speaker argues that true satisfaction often comes from something deeper than just chasing pleasure.
No, it's not just about willpower. It's about connecting with something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Whether that's faith, a sense of purpose, or even just a connection to nature.
It's like finding that thing that gives your life meaning beyond just those quick hits of dopamine.
And I think that's something that a lot of us are searching for these days, you know?
Totally. Like in a world that's so focused on the external, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters.
And it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that happiness comes from those external things,
Yeah.
like that new car or that perfect Instagram post.
But those things only provide temporary satisfaction. Like a sugar rush, it fades away quickly.
Exactly. And then we're left chasing the next hit, the next quick fix.
It's like a never-ending cycle.
And that's why Speak emphasizes the importance of spiritual practice. Like, it's about cultivating a sense of gratitude, appreciating the simple things, and recognizing that true joy often comes from connecting with something bigger than ourselves.
It's like shifting our focus from me to we.
Yeah, and sometimes that means making sacrifices, letting go of things that we think we need in order to create space for something more meaningful.
It's like that saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Right. And I think that's true for so many things in life. Like, we often don't appreciate what we have until we lose it.
So maybe giving up sugar for a while could help us appreciate all the other sweetness in our lives.
Exactly. Like the sweetness of connection, the sweetness of purpose, the sweetness of simply being alive.
Okay, I'm getting a little philosophical here, but I like it.
Me too. It's good to think about these things, you know.
Totally. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget about the bigger picture.
And I think that's one of the gifts of this sugar fast. It forces us to slow down, to pay attention to what we're putting into our bodies and to really examine our relationship with food.
And maybe even our relationship with ourselves.
Exactly. Like it's an opportunity to get to know ourselves better, to understand our patterns and our habits, and to make conscious choices that align with our values.
And that's something we can apply to all areas of our lives, right?
Absolutely. Like it's not just about sugar, it's about becoming more aware of those autopilot behaviors that we all have.
Like mindlessly scrolling through social media or reaching for that afternoon snack.
Exactly. Like we do so many things out of habit without even thinking about it.
But what if we did think about it? What if we asked ourselves, is this really serving me? Or is there something else I could be doing with my time and energy that would bring me more joy, more fulfillment?
That's such a powerful question to ask, and it's something that we should be asking ourselves regularly.
Totally. It's so easy to get stuck in a rut and just keep doing the same things over and over again.
But when we start to question those habits, when we start to look for alternatives, we open ourselves up to a whole new world of possibilities.
And maybe that's where the real magic happens.
I think so. Like, it's about breaking free from those limitations that we've put on ourselves and stepping into our full potential.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is. And it's something that's available to all of us. It's not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about being willing to try something new, to challenge ourselves, and to keep growing.
I love that. And I think that's a great place to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
You know, it's funny, we talk about like diets and self-improvement, and it's always like this big, serious thing.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like you got to be miserable to make any progress.
Right. But Speak kind of turns that whole idea on its head.
Yeah. How so?
Well, she's not about like deprivation or beating yourself up for your cravings.
Okay.
It's more about like making choices that actually feel good.
So it's not about forcing yourself to do something you hate.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what you truly value and then making choices that support that.
It's like being kind to yourself while still striving for growth.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about understanding why you do the things you do.
Like why you reach for that bag of chips when you're stressed.
Right. And then finding healthier ways to cope with that stress.
So instead of just saying, don't eat the chips, it's more about figuring out what need those chips are trying to fill.
Exactly. And then finding a more fulfilling way to meet that need.
I like that it's a much more holistic approach.
And the cool thing is that it applies to so much more than just food.
Yeah, that's what's been blowing my mind. Like we've been talking about sugar, but this whole mindful substitution thing could apply to anything.
Oh, totally. Like think about social media.
Okay.
You could use the same principles to break free from that endless scroll.
So instead of mindlessly scrolling, I could like go for a walk or read a book.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with your time and energy.
And choosing activities that actually nourish you.
Instead of drain you.
Right. It's like taking back control of your life.
And realizing that you have the power to create a life that you truly love.
Man, this is some deep stuff.
It is, right. And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know we've talked about sugar addiction, the history of fasting, the spiritual side of things.
And we've only got one book to thank for all of that.
It's amazing how much one book can spark so much thought.
I know, and if anyone's feeling inspired to learn more, I highly recommend checking out the 40-Day Sugar Fast.
It's definitely been a game changer for me.
Me too.
And who knows, maybe giving up sugar could be the key to unlocking a whole new level of sweetness in our lives.
In ways we never even imagined.
That's a beautiful thought, and I think it's a perfect note to end on. So until next time, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep seeking out those meaningful connections that make life truly sweet.
Thanks for tuning into Chapter 2, where we break down the best books to fuel your growth and learning. If this book caught your interest, check out the links in the description to get the audiobook at no cost. Don't miss out, and support our channel while you dive deeper into these life-changing reads. See you in the next episode.